What's good, Cannara Biotech traders and investors? It's Rod with Power Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth. It's Wednesday, Hump Day, April 27th. Hope you're doing awesome today. And in this video, going to try to make it as quick as possible. I do have a lot to go over here, but might end up being a little bit of a longer video. Going to go over Q2 2022 earnings of Cannara Biotech, ticker symbol LOVE on the TSX Venture Exchange. Also going to do some analysis, and like I said, got quite a few things I want to go over. Before we get to it though, make sure to smash the like, subscribe to the channel, tick the bell, you'll be notified on any future updates. So Cannara Biotech reports their fiscal second quarter 2022 financial results. Stock was pretty muted because the broader market was volatile today and it's been selling off. So I think until SPY really kind of sees the dust settle, we're not going to see MJ really take a direction. It's just going to be following that, right? Or until we have some major catalyst news that's really going to spark the entire sector. But essentially, stock was pretty muted today. And I also posted in a Cannara Biotech a group that I manage. I said, this was a few days ago, I said, I'll buy heavy once the tier one names take off. I own a moderate amount of love at the moment, but it's only 5% of my MJ portfolio. Given how beaten down the tier one names are, I'm parking most of my MJ portfolio capital there. And like usual, once the large caps run, I plan to take profit and start to buy more of the tier 2 and tier 3, so the smaller cap names, right? So sell the larger caps to buy the smaller caps. Plus, it'll be a while before we really see the volume and sales from the Valleyfield on their financials. Tilray makes almost $200 million a quarter, and Love will be around $10 million, I would say, if they're lucky. Just remember that you can own more than one MJ stock. So again, this isn't to diss Cannara in any way. I own many different MJ stocks. Check out my top 5 MJ holdings. I've got about a dozen different holdings. I've got some south of the border, north of the border, picks and shovels. So I've got some retailers, got some ETFs as well. So you can check that out. But essentially, I did also a video. I did an interview with Nicholas Sosiak, the CFO. That was really fun. You can check that out. Lots of great information in there. But I did a video, major warning sign on Cannara. And this was 5 months ago, saying that the price was showing some major warning signs. It wasn't just Cannara either. It was the whole entire sector. We had a death cross that was forming. And if we just take a look at what happened on Love in the last 5 months, you can see we went from when I released the video, it was 5 months ago, so it was around here when we got as low as about 12 cents, but there was a time there where we bounced to 15 cents. I said that the whole sector was bearish and SPY was likely going to cool off a little bit, and we had a death cross. So that was a potential opportunity to unload and reload cheaper from that high there, down about 30%. But even from the low there at 12 cents, down about another 10%. It's entirely possible that 10 cents is their bottom. Again, I'll look at the more technicals in a moment. But that's what I was referring to in that warning article. I got a lot of pushback for that, saying that it was over exaggerated. But we went from 15 cents down to 10 cents, and that's a lot whenever you're only in the pennies, right? And like I said, not dissing Cannara in any way. I'm just saying that it was following it's an MJ stock, and it was following the rest of MJ, and MJ was in a brutal bear market with no end in sight, weekly and monthly downtrends. But jumping in, we'll do a quick highlight here of the revenues and the financials from this quarter. Again, I wasn't expecting much because we're still waiting for the Valleyfield. They just had their first harvest, right? Which they ended up getting through all of that product and selling all that product. But it's going to be a while. I think we'll start to, like I said, they say here that they expect to reap some rewards from that here in the next quarter. But it's going to be a while, in my opinion, I think, before it really starts to, because they still have some more zones that they have to ramp up. So I think 2023 is really going to make 2022 and 2021 look like peanuts, but I think 2023 will be the year for Cannara. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me, disagree with me. Moving on though, company recorded $7.4 million in quarterly revenues and delivers the 4th consecutive quarter of positive adjusted EBITDA, which is great to see, and rapidly scaling Valleyfield. They completed their first harvest with positive market feedback consistent with the quality of the products that they're known for. All financial results are reported in Canadian dollars as well, unless otherwise stated. So we'll move on here real quickly. Their quarterly revenues were up 229% from the same quarter of the previous year, so that's good to see. They had a gross profit of fair value adjustments, 2.6 million, or 36% more than the same quarter in the previous year. Again, 4th consecutive positive quarter of adjusted EBITDA. Positive adjusted EBITDA of 1 million for the first 6 months of 2022. So they gave us a little bit of insight there, while supporting over 1 million in startup expenses for Valleyfield. compared to negative EBITDA of $2.4 million in the same period prior year. So a huge increase there. This is what I mentioned earlier, successfully harvested the first growing zone in its newly redesigned Valleyfield, which was acquired from the Green Organic Dutchman, and has sold subsequent to quarter end the finished product generated from its first harvest. So again, goes to show the demand for the product of Cannara. Completed the activation of its second and third 25,000 square foot growing zones in Valleyfield facility, effectively increasing its overall production capacity by more than 200% when comparing to the production capacity at the Farnham facility. So great to see. Increased working cap, and we know they can't really meet demand because their products are phenomenal, right? Some of the best products in the industry. Some would argue the best products. But I used to get some of my genetics when I was growing from the same, from Ethos Genetics, Colin over at Ethos, and they're just fantastic. I know they have a few different suppliers, but that's, again, a testament to how great their products really are and how focused they are on the consumers. Increased working capital. And it's only going, and we know they're struggling with supply issues, right? So this is really going to help that. Increased working capital to $14.8 million from the working capital of $12.4 million as of August 31st, 2021. Invested $7.4 million in capex towards the company's assets in order to increase production capacity and meet that demand processing capabilities. Granted aggregate of 7.71 million stock options to certain employees, 225,000 stock options to board members, and an exercise price of 18 cents per common share, subject to conditions. So they had a new genetic strain, and I posted here on Twitter. Cannara will be delivering 3 new genetics to its brand portfolios by August 2022. Turple and Power Sherb under Tribal and Slaps under Nugs. The second new genetic to be launched under the Tribal brand later this year, Power Sherb, a strong indica strain with a consumer favorite. So looking forward to that. Can't wait to try those. And that new strain, Turple, in the Quebec market is available in 3.5G and 5.5G pre-rolls. The company completed activation of its fourth 25,000 square foot growing zone, is currently ahead of objective of growing 6 zones by August 2022, so ahead of schedule there, which is great to see. So lots of hard work going on behind the scenes, and kudos to the Cannara team. The company was selected, and full disclosure, I do own Cannara, like I mentioned. It's just not a huge weighting. I'm going to look to go heavy, like I said, over the next few quarters. But if we see a big dip in the broader market and the rest of the MJ space still seeing lower lows, to, MSOS, the ETF, I'll take a look at that later. But all-time lows, we could see more downside here, folks. Just again, being real with everybody and letting you know what I see in the charts and in the sector. The company was selected as one of 3 MJ producers by OCS to have headlining product at their 420 event. So they had special innovative packaging design. Company successfully harvested the second growing zone at Valleyfield facility, granted an aggregate total, some stock options information. They go on. I'm not going to read all of this just in an effort of time, but I encourage you to go on here and check it out. So CFO Nicholas Soziak, while we are focused on investing in our own assets, we continue to outperform from a financial standpoint. This was our 4th consecutive quarter of positive adjusted EBITDA. And again, we know that that's a very big stretch for a lot of MJ companies, right? It's not very common among LPs. So great to see that they're kind of taking a slower ground up approach and really starting to execute and ramp up their production capacities. EBITDA, while continuing to support and significantly grow our production footprint. We added over 40 new employees to help support. So a lot of companies are downsizing. We saw Canopy as well. We know Hexo closed its Belleville facility to save on costs. And, there were some mergers and stuff like that. And same with, Canopy, they merged with Fire, Supreme. But again, they're laying off hundreds of employees, and you can see that Cannara is actually adding. So taking a very slow and steady approach. They're focused, they were focusing on Quebec, and then now they're focusing on Ontario. But imagine what it's going to be like when they get rest to the new markets across Canada. And that's going to be what Valleyfield is for, right? It's going to help get those distribution channels out to the rest of Canada. I mean, we still got BC, there's Alberta, BC. There's so many huge markets just in Canada alone. And realistically, there's so much growth to be had, right? Quebec still doesn't allow vapes, and they're just starting to allow edibles. First one from Tilray. So that's all stuff that'll be coming down the pipeline. And then we didn't even factor in the U.S. yet, right? What happens when, but again, it might be good for Cannara that the U.S. is kind of delaying this. This might be good for investors and for Cannara as a whole in the board, right? And the executives, because if the U.S. is delayed, they have time to focus on their own backyard, expand across Canada, really dominate Canada, and then move into the U.S. once federally permissible to do so. But again, gross revenue, you can see here 7.4 million. And they did have, one thing I'd note, the gross profit adjustments and percentage has been declining. So that was a little bit concerning. So we'll want to see that rebound here, in my opinion, into the next few quarters. But if we take a look at the net income loss, 1.145 million. So again, basic earnings loss per share. So it was negative earnings of 0.01, and that's been the same. So it hasn't really changed in terms of EPS and loss per share. Just going through this here, see if there's anything else. Cash on hand. So as of February 28th, 2022, we've got working capital of 14.7 million, total assets 101 million, and total current liabilities 7.9 million, net assets 62 million. So let's just run through this a little bit quicker here so you can see positive adjusted EBITDA here. Outstanding shares. So that's something as well I wanted to mention, is that, there's an awful lot of shares, right? 876 million shares. It's even entirely possible that they do a reverse split. We'll see. If they do want to upgrade, say, to the NASDAQ and join its peers, then they might need to do a potential reverse split. So again, that's a possibility. That's one concern for me as well. Just a little bit of an uncertainty there in terms of the amount of shares that are actually issued. Like I said, market cap is fairly high as well comparative to some of our peers in the sector. There's some names like, I won't name any LPs, but there's some names that are, that were over $1 billion that are only valued at a couple $100 million. There's several. And the fact that, like I said, the fact that we're at a market cap of 96 million, again, I own it in my portfolio. I'm very bullish. I just think that we could potentially see a little bit more downside from here, but we did hit 10 cents. I could see a flush of 10 cents, but again, I'm really going to start to go heavy once the tier ones start to run. And like I said, usually once the whole sector is beaten down, right, it takes a while for these trends to change. And generally what we see when the whole sector is beaten down, it's the tier ones and the large caps that run first. And because why does that happen? Well, it's because we're waiting for some sort of catalyst, right? It doesn't mean that one stock can't have news and go up, but is it really going to sustain the move? We need to see the whole sector reverse, and usually that's a catalyst, whether it be U.S. legalization or whether it be Canada eases restrictions on something, or a big merger or something like that. That's considered bullish for the sector. But we need a huge catalyst, and generally when we have that huge catalyst, it's the tier one names, right? Because they're beaten down the most and they have the most liquidity, and that's what the market makers can manipulate the most. In other news as well, key congressman tells leadership that MJ banking must be a top priority in large-scale manufacturing bill heading to the conference, and this was posted today. About 6 or 7 hours ago. So that is interesting. Also, New York recreational MJ sales likely to begin in the fall. So I think there's going to be a huge run into the fall and the elections as well. But again, guys, I think that, with crypto and tech, we know Ethereum got delayed, the merge, and a lot of things got delayed there. I think they don't want to run MJ until after tech and crypto are done. And that's likely going to be sometime in the summer leading into the fall, and that lines up perfectly with an MJ bull run into the fall. Taking a look at Love, though, like I said, we did confirm a monthly downtrend here with a lower high and lower low, so we've got a lot of work to do in terms of changing these macro trends. In terms of the weekly time frame, again, weekly downtrend. We've been in a weekly downtrend since July of 2021, right, with a lower high and lower low. We actually did negate the weekly downtrend here, but it ended up just getting faded down. And that's why I did that video saying that we had some massive warning signs, right? And that we had that death cross and the whole sector was bearish. So it wasn't necessarily, you might be wondering, why is Cannara, down, and it's positive, fourth consecutive, positive adjusted EBITDA. The EPS isn't too bad, and they've got increasing revenues. It's just because the whole sector, right, is down, and the whole sector moves together until it's mature enough. We're going to continue to see that. It's like crypto, right? The whole crypto industry follows Bitcoin, right? It's just because it's such a low market cap and not a whole lot of up dollars into the sector, so the whole sector moves in tandem, similar with MJ. But again, we're waiting for weekly uptrends and monthly uptrends to be confident that the bottom is in. We still nowhere near confirming a weekly uptrend, so that's why I'm saying we still have to go through weeks of price action to see a weekly uptrend confirm, and then after that, we have to zoom out to the monthly and then change monthly trends, and then we have to get the monthly bounce and then a higher low and higher high. So there's a lot of work to do. We got to be patient on Love. Like I said, it's one of my holdings. It's only about I added some the other day, yesterday I think it was, so it might be up to about 10% of my MJ portfolio, but I'm looking to add this one, like I said, as the tier 1 and large cap names run. I'm going to be looking to take some of those profits and rotate it into Love. And like I said, I think it's going to take a couple more quarters before we really see a huge increase in their revenues, right? So again, we'll want to see positive EPS. That's something to look forward to. And again, that's likely all going to come into 2023, in my opinion. But we should start to see some results from Valleyfield in the next quarter, like they mentioned. I was going to dive into some of their prior earnings, but not really much to go over. It's basically just that we've been slightly increasing. 229% from the prior quarter last year. So things are going in the right direction. But again, I wasn't expecting a whole lot this report because of the fact that they just harvested, their first grow up there in Valleyfield, and they're working on more zones, and it's going to take take at least a couple more quarters before we see real true, fruits of that labor. Taking a look at the weekly time frame, so we're below the 10-week moving average. Stochastic and MACD are still bearish. We had a bear cross, so no real signs of hope there in terms of the weekly macro indicators. In terms of the weekly moving averages, we're bearish here as well. We're below the 50 and the 100, which is the only ones defined. The 200 hasn't been defined yet based on a lack of trading history. And then on the daily time frame, we're still below all the daily moving averages as well, and we're bearish on the daily MACD. So there's a lot of work to do technically, not so much fundamentally. It's more of a technical thing in Love, and you might be wondering what might be frustrating you, but it's just an opportunity to dollar cost average, in my opinion, and accumulate. And the reason why it's down is because of the whole MJ sector, right? That's just the market environment and the sector moving in tandem. And when we had that bounce up to 15 cents as well, we had the death cross, and what a perfect exit opportunity to get out there, kiss of death at the 200 day, and then the death cross, so call that the kiss of death. You could have exited there and then rebought if we closed the daily candle back above 15, and that would have saved yourself downside from 15 cents to 10 cents. But again, I wasn't selling. I'm just accumulating with MJ down, 90+%. I don't try to trade an asset like that or an asset class like that. I just dollar cost average. MJ, I did a portfolio video update as well, my portfolio breakdown, and I went over what I currently hold. 50% is cash. I've got next real estate, then crypto, then MJ. And like I said, Cannara is only about 5 to 10% of my MJ portfolio. Let me know what you hold in your portfolio. How much percentage-wise do you have in Cannara in your MJ portfolio? How much MJ do you have in your overall investment portfolio? You're holding any cash? Let me know in the comments. Are you bullish or bearish into next quarter? What did you think of these earnings? Do you agree with me, disagree with me? Always love hearing from you, and let's continue the conversation in the chat below. Thanks for joining us again on The Pursuit of Wealth. It's Rod with Power Group, and we'll see you again in the next video.